Good morning, all of you. So today we'll discuss about what is concurrency control mechanism. So what exactly concurrency that can be occur in the database? Last class we have discussed about what is exactly transaction. So the concurrency control mechanism is a part of that transaction processing systems. So if there will be multiple number of transactions and they want to execute at the same time, then the problem of concurrency can be occurs. So how to avoid this concurrency? The mechanism we can call that as a concurrency control. There are several types of concurrency control mechanism are there, just like log-based protocol, timestamp based protocol, validation based protocol, multiple granularity, multi-version scheme, deadlock handling, insert and delete operation, and concurrency in index structure. We'll discuss one by one. All the different methods are there. So basically we are using those methods called as log based method, timestamp, and validation based protocols. So let us move for the next one. So what is a log based protocol? Before we start this log based protocol, we have to know what is a log. So as usual, log, if you call that as a log is nothing but a mechanism which is used to control the concurrency access to a data item. So that what it exactly means, this if you say that this log mechanism, so this is a mechanism how we can control the concurrence, how can you control the concurrent access to a data item. Now the question is how to put a lock. Let the data item equal to x, let the data item equal to x. We can put the lock into that data item in two way. There will be two type of locking mechanism that can be used. One is a share lock, another one is a exclusive lock. Normally you can denote the share lock. Normally you can denote this share lock in the form of s and exclusive lock in the form of x. So what is the basic difference between these two? What is a share lock and what is a exclusive lock? So if it is a share lock, if you can put a share lock, then the data can be only read. You cannot perform the write operation on the data item. But if you put a exclusive lock on the data item, then you can both perform read as well as write. So if a user only need to read the data, he has to put a share lock. But if you want to both read and write, then he has to put a exclusive lock over there. Now the question is, who will activate the lock, who will grant the lock, how the lock will be granted, and how we can give the request which is given by the user can be granted. So all the mechanism that can be simply performed by the concurrency control managers. The transaction can only be proceed. The transaction only can be proceed after making the granting of those locks. Granting of the lock. Now we'll discuss about what is a details of that log-based protocol. So before we start this log-based protocol, we have to know what is a log compatible matrix. Now simple, and the previous part we have discussed about, there will be two type of log, either it is a share log or it is a exclusive log. So share log is denoted by S, exclusive log is denoted by X. Now the question is, let us consider two data item will be there. So what is a matrix that can be associated over there? So if one is in share, another is share, true. This value equal to true. But first one is share, second one is exclusive, should be value equal to false. And all the value equal to false except which two operations, both should be the share log. If either is a share or exclusive, exclusive or share, or both are exclusive, the log compatible matrix equal to false. You cannot put such type of a log over there. It called as a compatible matrix. Now So we have to know that what is exactly mechanism of lock there. Now any transaction may be granted a lock item request if it is already hold the item by the other transactions. Now the question is how we can implement this lock based protocols. So before we start any of the operations or any of the operation on the transaction, suppose we require the data item X. So if we require the data item X, we have to put a lock on data item X. We have to perform our operation. That is what either it will be a updation operation, manipulation operation, modification operations, any type of operation that on data item X. Then we have to release. After the performing, then we have to perform the write operation on data item X. Once you perform the data item write operation, then you can perform the unlock operation. Until and unless you perform the unlock operation, you can that same data item cannot be used by other transactions. So this is the basic idea. We have to acquire the lock, we have to read the data item, we have to perform the operation specified by the users, unlock the data item, a write operation will be there, unlock the data item, then it can be used by other. So let us consider a small example over here. Let my transaction equal to T2, and as I discussed, what is the first step? We have to put a lock over there. Let I have put the share lock over there. Let I have put the share lock over here. So let the data item equal to A, and I have to lock S of A. What is exactly meaning of this lock S of A? It is a share type of lock. That means we can only read the data item A, but we cannot perform any type of write operation on data item A. So in the entire example, you can, if you check, there will be no write operation. Only which operation? Only read operations. That means it is a which type of lock? Share lock. If here it will be X lock, that is exclusive lock, you can perform both share as well as you can perform both read as well as write operation. So first step is completed. We have put a share lock on data item A. Then the next step is nothing but we have to perform the read of A. What does exactly mean? It is read the data item at the value of A from the storage or the buffer. Once I read, then I can perform an unlock of A. Similarly, let the another data item equal to B. I have to put a share lock on data item B, read B, unlock B. Now both A and B, all the operation has performed. We have putting a lock, we have read the operation, we have unlock the operation. Then if you want what is the result of that A and B, let us it will be display A plus B. It will show what is the outcome of this data item A and B. Now the question is, if we perform this type of locking, then we cannot guarantee the serializability. Now the question is, what is exactly serializability? The previous classes we have discussed already. What is a serial schedule? That means if any schedule can be converted into the serial, then it is called as the serial schedule. So to convert that serial schedule, how can we convert that schedule into the serial schedule? So it's a simple thing is that perform, suppose there will be multiple number of transactions are there, perform one transactions at a time. After the completion of one transaction, then perform the other transaction. Similarly, you can proceed if there will be more than two number of transactions are there. So after the completion of a transaction, let the two transactions will be there T1 and another transaction equal to T2. After the completion of transaction T1, then the transaction T2 will be occurred. So if the effect of that database is same as the original given sequence, then we can say there is a serializability. Okay. So what exactly meaning of the result will be, or the sequence result will be same in the both the sequence. That means the outcome of the non-serial schedule, if it is same as the outcome of the serial schedule, then we can say that the given schedule is to be serializable. And there will be different type of serializability there. As you know, it may be a conflict serializable, it may be a view serializable. We have to go for a graph method. It is a directed graph. to prove whether it is a serializable or not. We have already completed that one. Now the thing is that if you put a lock-based protocol in this manner based on the share lock, we cannot guarantee the serializability. We cannot guarantee that the serializability occur. Cannot guarantee that this transaction is go for a serial schedules. So the question is, why it does not guarantee that one? Why? The question is why. Now let us consider a small scenario. If the value of A and B is updated in between. So if the value of A and B is updated in between, now the question is, the read of A and B displayed, the wrong will be the sum that can be we have using here, it will be displayed. The sum, it can give wrong results. Okay, so if there will be no changes in between, it will give a correct answer, but if there is a changes in between, it will give a wrong answer. So the question is how to overcome this problem. So to overcome this problem, we have to take the help of several locking protocol. So what exactly locking protocol is there? If you say there is a locking protocol, is nothing but a set of rules, that are followed by the transaction while requesting and releasing the lock. So locking protocol restricts the set of possible schedules. We have to follow this locking protocol for all the number of a transaction while requesting and releasing the locks. Okay, now let us consider this partial schedule will be there. Let us consider this partial schedule will be there. Two transactions will be there. One is T3, another one is T4. I have to put a lock onto that data item B. Let the lock will be X of B. So if it indicate that X of B, it indicate which type of lock? It indicate exactly the exclusive lock. That means we can perform the read operation as well as we can perform the write operation. You can check over here. There will be both read and write operation, but in the previous example, there is no write operation, there is only read operations. Clear? So after the completion of this one, then we move for the transaction T4. T4 is associated with a share lock. So lock S of A, read of A, lock S of B. Once it is completed, lock S of B, then move to the transaction T3. There is nothing but lock X of A. Now the question is, so whether T3 will be executed or T4 will be executed. So in that case, neither T3 will be executed nor T4 will be executed. Why? Now I can check over here. There is a lock of X. We have to put a exclusive lock on data item X. We have performed the read operation. There is a modification and write of A. And at this point, there is no unlock operation over there. That means the value of B is associated with the transaction T3. The value is hold at transaction T3. Okay. Now move to the T4. So this type of lock is called as the share lock, and data item A is here it is used for the first time. It is not used by the transaction T3. So T4 can directly put a lock on data item A, and it will perform the read of A. Now this data item A is associated with the transaction T4. Data item B is associated with the transaction T3. Data item A is associated with the transaction T4. And the question is, if T3 need A and T4 need B, what exactly here is there? T4 here it is need B to put a lock on data item B, share lock, and T4 is used to put a lock over B, data item B, and T3 is you want to put a lock on data item A. But actually the the A is associated with the transaction T4 and B is associated with the transaction number T3. So in this case, neither T3 will be executed nor T4 will be executed. So they has to wait for each other to release the lock. That means T3 has to release the lock on data item B, so that can be used by T4. T4 has to release the lock of data item A, it can be used by T3. So that situation is called as the deadlock situation. So what exactly deadlock? If one data item is used by other transaction, and that multiple number of at the same time the same data item is required by the other, and vice versa, and both cannot be used simultaneously, both cannot be executed simultaneously, just to wait for something. So to handle this deadlock, either T3 or T4 is to be rolled back and its lock should be released. That means we can roll back either T3 or roll T4. It has to begin with from the initial transactions, from the beginning steps, and the lock may be released. So this is all about exactly what is a lock-based protocol and what is a deadlock situation. Another concept of this another condition is this situation of that lock-based is called as a starvation. What exactly starvation is there? Starvation is a possible if concurrency control manager is badly designed. That means, let us consider the example. A transaction may be waiting for a special lock on that item, while a sequence of other transaction request and are granted an S lock on the same data item. The same transaction is repeated rollback due to deadlock, and that condition is called as starvation. That means, what exactly starvation? If a particular data item X, is repeated go for the rollback due to some other data item in other transaction, then the procedure is called as starvation. Specific data item is go for a rollback each and every time, then it is called as starvations. So what are the different type of protocol that can be used in concurrency control? First mechanism is two-phase locking protocol. So why it is called as two-phase? Since there will be two number of phases that are associated with this protocol, we can call that as a two-phase locking protocol. So what exactly that two-phase locking protocol? There will be two number of phases are there: growing phase, shrinking phase. Growing phase and shrinking phase. Remember another point will be there. If we perform the two-phase locking protocol, it ensures the complete serialization. And previously we have discussed about what are the different type of serializable methods. Either it is a conflict serializable or it is a view serializable. The condition of conflict serializable will be the data item belongs to different number of transactions. So they act on the same data item. The transaction may transaction may be different. They act on the same data item. At least there is a one write operation. So if there is at least there will be one write operation. Normally there will be three type of conflict serializable there, or conflict schedule will be there. Either it is a read write, or it is a write read, or both will be right. There is no read operation since you violate the conflict serializable properties. So now there will be two number of phases over there. Either it is a growing phase or it is a shrinking phase. So what is the basic difference between these two? What is the basic difference between the growing phase and shrinking phase? So the phase number one is growing phase. The condition is over here. The transaction, it may acquire the lock but cannot release the lock. Okay, so the transaction may acquire the lock but cannot release the lock. That means we can put a lock onto the data item over in this page, but there should not be any unlock operation, cannot release the lock. But if it's a shrinking phase, we can release a lock, but we cannot acquire a new lock to the data item. Simple thing is that. So two phases will be there, either it's a growing phase or it's a shrinking phase. In growing phase, the transaction may acquire the lock, but cannot release the lock. In shrinking phase, the transaction may release a lock, but cannot acquire the new lock. So now this two-phase locking is associated, can perform associated serializability, and as previously we will discuss which type of serializability will move. It will provide the complete serializable schedule. Okay, so but the one different difficulty over here, it cannot ensure it will free from the deadlock. So it can ensure complete serializable, but it cannot ensure the deadlock situations. So to clearly understand this one, we have to know. Okay, so we have to know what exactly the log conversion protocol will be there. Now, to what is exactly log conversion? That means there will be two type of log, either it is share log or it is exclusive log. The question is, can we convert? Can we convert one log to another log? Can we upgrade from share log to exclusive log, or can we downgrade from exclusive log to the share log? So it can be possible. The log conversion will be there in the first phase. So what is the first phase name? Is called as the growing phase. In the growing phase, you can acquire the log, we cannot release the log. In sinking phase, you can release the log, but we cannot acquire another log. So in the first phase, we can acquire a share log on that item. We can acquire a exclusive log on that item. We can convert a share log into a exclusive log. So it is called as upgrade of the locking. So simple thing is that for the log conversion property, we have to follow that two number of phases over there, that is growing phase and sinking phase. In growing phase, we can acquire a share log, we can acquire a share log, we can acquire a exclusive log, and we can convert a share log into a exclusive. So it's called as upgradation of the log. Similarly, in the sinking phase, the second phase of the locking. So what's the basic idea? The basic idea here is we can release the log, but we can acquire some new log. So which type of log we can release? We can release the share log, we can release the exclusive log, and we can downgrade or we can convert a exclusive log into a share log. So this is the basic concept of a log conversion. Now it is clear that two type of conversion will be there. It can be performed in growing phase, first phase. It can perform in sinking phase, second phase. There will be we can acquire a share log, we can acquire exclusive log, we can convert a share log into exclusive log in first phase, and in second phase, that is sinking phase, we can release a share log, we can release exclusive log, we can convert a exclusive log into a corresponding share log. Okay. Now, how can automatically acquisition of the lock? So let TI is my transaction, which can be performed as standard read and write instruction without any explicit locking calls. So simple thing is that we have to perform the read and write operation without any explicit locking calls. Now, how can acquire this lock? You have to follow several steps over here. If transaction TI has a lock on data item D, let my data item equal to D, I have to put a lock on data item D. So if I put on a lock on data item D, I can easily read the lock. I can easily read the lock on data item A. Else, we'll go for that if necessary. That what is exactly meaning of this else part? That means we cannot put a lock on data item D. We cannot put a lock on data item D. If you cannot put a lock on data item D, it indicates that the data item D is already being used by some other process, some other transaction that are using the data item D. If those transactions are using the data item D, we cannot put a lock over there. We cannot perform a read operation over there. Simple thing is that we cannot perform a read operation over there. It has to go for the waiting for the sometime. So if we cannot put a lock over there, so we have to wait, and we have to wait until other transaction has to release the lock. So after the waiting of this one, then the transaction Ti grant Ti lock S on data item A. Once it is get that data item D, you can put a share lock on data item D, read the data item N. So simple thing is that if the data item D is available, it is not used by some other transactions at the same time, then we can put a read, we can put a lock, we can perform the read operation. If it is used by some other process, we have to wait until they are releasing the lock on send data item D. Okay. So this is completed about the read operation. Now suppose I have to perform the write operation. For write operation, as we know, we have to put which type of lock? It is nothing but exclusive lock. Exclusive lock is to be performed for the write operation. Share lock is to perform for the read operation. So if you put a X lock, then you can both read as well as write. So if transaction Ti has a X lock on data item D. So what is the meaning of transaction Ti has a X lock on data item D? Let my data item equal to D, my transaction equal to Ti. I have to put a exclusive lock on data item D. So if I put a exclusive lock on data item D, that means the data item D is free. No transaction are using the data item X, that data item D. So now data item D equal to free, then I can make a write operation over here. Now if the data item D is used by some other process, we have to wait, and we have to wait that here. If necessary, wait until no other transaction has any lock on D. Okay. Now, since it is a exclusive lock, we can perform both read operation as well as write operations. So if transaction Ti has a lock of S on data item D, if a transaction Ti has a lock on which type of lock? Say a lock on data item X, then we can upgrade the lock to X lock. We can upgrade that we have previously discussed. We can upgrade a share lock into exclusive lock. Else, where we can grant a exclusive lock on data item D to transaction Ti. So two things you can perform over here. If you have to wait to reach up to a share lock, we can take that share lock, and once you take that share lock, you can upgrade the share lock into the exclusive lock, or you can go for a grant of the share lock, grant of the exclusive lock on data item X to the transaction Ti, and perform the write operation and end operation. So this is exactly mechanism how can automatically acquisition of the lock, either whether it is a read operation, whether it for a write operation. So we have to perform two operation, either it is a commit or it is a abort. So what is the basic difference between this commit and abort operations? As you know, the commit means the transaction is completed successfully in the end, and abort means the transaction is completed unsuccessfully. There will be some error during the execution of the transaction. It is completed but unsuccessfully. Okay. Now to illustrate this example, let us take another example over here. How can so let us consider this the small example over here. It is a two-phase locking, and what is the type of two-phase locking over here? Now, as you know, there will be two type of lock over here. We have already discussed two type of lock over here. In that part, we'll discuss an example in which we have to check how to put a two-phase locking into the data item. Okay. Now, let us consider this two-phase locking protocol in which there will be two number of phases in there. The transaction goes to the first phase, as you know, it is a growing phase, and second phase is called as a sinking phase. In growing phase, we can acquire a lock. In sinking phase, we can release a lock. So the basic idea, once you have released a lock, you cannot acquire any more locks on the data item. In which phase? In second phase, sinking phase. So now let us consider an example. Let I have a two number of transactions. You can easily clear from that one. Transaction T1 and transaction T2. Two number of transactions will be there. Transaction T1 and transaction T2. I have to put a read lock on that item A. What do you mean by read lock? It is nothing but a share lock. Share lock, sometimes you can call that a read lock over there. It is called as a, why it is called as a read lock? We can only perform read operation, so that it is called as a read lock. So read lock on that item A. Once you put a lock on that item A, it is a share lock. I can read it up. I can perform the read operation. Read of A. Similarly, let I have to put a share lock on that item B. I have to put a share lock on that item B. I have to perform the read of B operations. Now, after this 4 number of operation over there, let us move the transaction number T2 will be executed. Read on A. That will be, it is a read lock on that item A, read of A, unlock of A. Okay. Now here there will be no problem. That means he has put a lock on that item A, he has read the operation, he has unlock. Then A is free now, it can be used by some other processes since there is an unlock operation with there. Now it is unlock of A and unlock of B. Now the question is, what exactly whether the T2 will be executed or not in that example. Okay. Now there will be which type of lock is used over here? This simply it is a read lock that can be used for both A and B over there. Since the both transaction did nothing but only read, this easily identifiable as a serializable schedule. Okay. So only there is a read operation. Both A and B can acquire a read lock. Hence, we can say that it is a serial schedule. But let us go to another complicated example over there. This is a simple one. We'll go for the complicated one. Now we have to check what is the problem that can be occur over here. So in the previous example, we have discussed about it is share lock. Now in this example, we have to discuss about what is the exclusive lock. Now same thing will be there. There will be 2 transactions. One is T1, another one is transaction T2. Let's put a exclusive lock on that item A. So it is written as write lock. Sometimes you can call that as a write lock. Sometimes you can call that as a exclusive lock. So it can perform both read operation as well as write operations. So if it is perform both read operation as well as write operation, let us I have first perform the read operation on that item A. Okay. At the same time, after the execution of this operation, transaction T2 will want to perform a read lock on data item A. Now the question is, the data item A is already acquired by transaction T1. Until and unless transaction T1 will perform a write lock or it is a unlock operation, then other transaction cannot be used. So if transaction T2 is attend to perform a read lock on data item A, it cannot get the data item A. So the item will be fail. Now this item will be fail. It cannot get the data item A. Why? Now since it is already been associated with the transaction T1 and T1 is not performing any unlock operations. Okay. So after this one, these are the sequence in which we have to perform. This is the first, second, third and last one. So then it can perform a write operation. Transaction T1 will perform a write operation. Then it will go for the unlock operation. Once it executed this unlock operation on data item A, now the data item A is free. It can be used by some of the transactions. Now, if T2 will want to put a read lock over here, share lock over here, you can easily perform. There will be no fail. It can easily get that value of the transaction A or data item A. He has to perform the read operation. And once it is read will be completed, there will be no, you can mark over there, there will be no write operation. Why? Since it will perform which type of lock? Share lock. Only read operation can be performed. There will be no write operation. We will go for the unlocking. Once it is complete, then the commit statement is executed by the transaction T1. What it indicates? End of the transaction T1. All the operation has been successfully completed. Commit statement can be executed by T2. Now, what is the output of this one? So in this case, we can avoid this conflict operation from occurring by not allowing the lock to be granted until there is a write lock has been freed. That means we cannot give this read of day operations until there is a write operation and there is a unlock operations. Is it clear? That means once we have to use the data item A, we have to update that A unlock operation on that item. Once you perform the unlock, then you can use the data item with the others. Similarly, let us consider this example. Okay, so same thing will be there. Let there will be two number of transactions. One is T1 and another one is T2. We have to put a read lock over there. Right, we have to put a write operation. We have to first one is read of A, write of A. Then read of A by transaction T2, read of write of A by transaction T2, read of B by transaction T2, and write of B by transaction T2. Then there is a read operation, write operation, and check. So you say there is a simple one, but what is the problem that can be used over here? So the change in our commit order from the previous example can be mentioned over here. This is done to make a recoverable, and if we perform this one, we can say that this one is a recoverable schedule. That means the transaction have the dependency on the previous transaction must not commit until the previous transaction will be commit. The simple thing is that it's called as a recoverable schedule. That is, if there will be some dependency on the previous transaction, that must not be commit until the previous transaction will be commit. If transaction T1 will depend upon T2, so T1 has to first commit, then we'll go for the T2. Okay. Okay. So now if it's a two-phase locking over here, that is a, we can put a write lock, we can perform a write operation, we can perform a read operation, we can perform a write operation, and again, if you want to write lock, it should not be granted, it has to be wait until the write operation, until the unlock operation over here. Once the unlock operation over here is performed, as well as the unlock operation of B, then the transaction T1 can be executed. After the completion of this one, there is a commit, and there is a commit over here. Here means the transaction T1 will be completed, then the transaction T2 will be completed. And this protocol, we can call that this can be a serializable. Okay. Another version of serializable there is called as two-phase, strictly two-phase locking. That means this is an example of a two-phase, strictly two-phase locking. It ensures the serializable schedule. It ensures the serializable schedule. But what exactly the meaning of this strictly two-phase locking? What is the basic difference between strictly two-phase locking and two-phase locking? If it is two-phase locking, we can only ensure the serializable schedule, but if T1 abort rather than the commit statement, if there is a error from T1, hence there is a dependency of a T2, since T2 cannot be get a T2 cannot get a commit statement, hence there is a cascading abort over there. So the basic idea of a transaction two-phase locking is that to ensure this serializable schedule, we have to first perform the commit statement over here. You can check. We have to perform the commit statement of a transaction T1. Then we have to perform the commit statement of transaction T2. And the same thing you can check over here. If there will be some error, in transaction T1, if in between somewhere there will be error over there, that means it will go for a abort. It should not execute the commit statement. Once it should not execute the commit statement, it cannot execute the commit statement. It should execute a abort statement. Okay. So if it is a abort statement, then the transaction T2 cannot be executed. The transaction T2 cannot be executed. So to overcome this problem, we'll go for a strictly two-phase locking. Strictly two-phase locking. That means in strictly two-phase locking, it both ensure the serializable schedule and one that avoid the cascading aborts. If you follow the strictly two-phase locking, strictly two-phase locking, then it can ensure both the serializable as well as cascading output. In simple word, what is the basic difference between two-phase locking and strictly two-phase locking? In two-phase locking, at the end you can put a comment statement over here, but in street to two phase locking, once you have to performing a unlock operation, then you can put a comment statement at the end of the each transactions and specific operation. Once you perform an unlock operation, at the same time here you can perform the here you can perform the unlock operations. Here you can perform the unlock up. Here you can perform the commit statement over there. Once it's commit, then it can be executed. So that is the idea over here. Okay, that means the operations were not completing. There should not be any issues over the interleaving operations. Now, what is exactly deadlock? As we previously discussed about, suppose there will be two transactions T1, another transaction equal to T2. Let that two data item will be there, A and B. Let A is associated with T1, B is associated with T2. Both data item A and B, A is associated with one transaction, B is associated with another transaction. Now A needs the data item B, where the B transaction T1 will need the data item B, transaction T2 will need the data item A, but both are locked by the other transactions. You can check this example over here. Two transactions will be there. One is T1, another one is T2. So T1 is put a write lock on data item A. T1 is put a write lock on data item A. That means the data item A is associated with a transaction T1. At the same time, B is associated with the transaction T2. T2 will put a write lock on data item B. Okay. So A is associated with T1, B is associated with T2, and both will which type of lock? Exclusive lock. You can perform both read operation as well as write operation. Now there is a read of A. Okay, you can perform a read of A. No problem, since it actually lock on data item A. You can perform a read of B since it put a write lock on data item B. Okay. Now the question is, if T1 want to put a exclusive lock on data item B, T1 want to perform a exclusive lock on data item B, it should not be granted. Why it should not be granted? Since T2 is already put a write lock on data item B. He has put a write lock on data item B. He has performed a read operation. There is no write operation. There is no unlock operation. Hence, if there is no unlock operations, that means that data item B is associated with the transaction T2. T2 hold the value of B. If T2 hold the value of B and there is no unlock operation on that item B, it cannot be used by some other processes. It cannot be used by some other processes. Hence, T1 has to wait for which data item? For the data item B. Okay. Similarly, if the data item A is needed, if the data item A is needed by transaction T2, and as you know, the T1 will put a write lock on data item A, perform the read operation, and up to that point, there is a no unlock operation on data item A. So in this case, T1 wait for B, which is held by transaction T2. T2 wait for A, which is held by transaction T1. So in that case, neither T1 will be executed nor T2 will be executed. Neither T1 will be executed nor T2 will be executed. Hence, both will wait for each other for indefinite number of times. That situation is called as a deadlock. Thank you.